Welcome back to the Rob Taylor Tattoos podcast. We have a returning guest today, Mr. Justin Eckerd.
What up?
Theo Guide, music producer. Dive into some more stories with him today as we finish this piece up. Justin, thank you again for coming in, man.
Yeah, thank you for having me, man. This is
Absolutely.
last experience was great. This is awesome. You're doing some really cool work. I'm excited to see what it's gonna look like when it's done.
Yes, this is a fun one for sure.
Yeah.
I really enjoy this piece. So, what have you been up to since you've been here last?
Man, so this year I've really been trying to like book my calendar, find new artists that I really love, that I really see have potential in the like rock and country space right now, and reaching out to them, finally getting my business straight in terms of legality and things like that. I was telling my wife yesterday that it felt like up till maybe last year, I just kind of had my foot on the gas, and the gas was slowly running out. And last year was kind of like the year that really added. I was able to pit stop and add more fuel to the gas tank with all the blessings and all the abundance that just came from years of work.
What is fuel to you? What fuels your gas tank?
Seeing results.
Okay.
Yeah. So last year was a big like see results kind of thing of the past 10 years, really. And actually it was 9 years in August of 2025. So this will be like my 10th year. They say it takes 10 years to really do it. And so last year was up until about 2024. From 2016 to 2024, gas was on the pedal. I was doing everything I could. And in 2024, ran out of gas. And I was kind of like,
that you say that 10-year thing, because it seems like that is a common number that I see across the board for a lot of people is, man, I had to put in 10 years, whether that be content, tattooing, to really be like, oh no, I feel like I've made it.
Yeah.
Finally made it doing something.
Yeah.
And it's only going to go better from there kind of thing.
10 years. I hear 10,000 hours, a lot to master a skill. I think 10,000 hours to master it, and then 10 years of really putting it to use. Create that success. And I think so many people want it so quickly because, society is based around convenience and
and you got to think of
really
how quick everything comes to us nowadays.
Exactly.
Things are damn near instantaneous.
Yeah. Between
entertainment and food, just everything is shopping.
Yeah. 100%. Like we are a consumer nation, and it's hard to see the world outside of this country as not heavily consumer, because that's everything that's portrayed in America about other countries.
Have you done much traveling outside of the country?
I went to Canada when I was 15, and I went to Iraq when I was 25. So not really experience in that sense.
Okay.
Yeah, but Canada was cool. It's kind of a cultural shock. I was like 15 years old. I was going to Winnipeg to this native reservation, and we were doing like a mission trip out there. That was a pretty interesting trip, but we drove across the ice road.
How was that?
Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah, it seems like that'd be terrifying.
It was a big lake. I can't remember. I don't know if it was a lake called Lake Winnipeg. I'm not sure, but I just remember during the spring, they told us that they had to take a plane to get out to their reservation. Yeah, the ice road was crazy. We stopped in the middle of the lake, and they told us about like surface tension and how bigger cars and trucks tend to make it a lot easier rather than like something that's, I guess, like spread out, it's distributed weight. Okay. Yeah. Learned some physics, and that was a kind of a cool thing. They showed us areas where the ice was like cracking, and of course they messed with us. They were like, don't drive over that crack. And then we drove over it, and we're like, oh no, we're gonna, and they were messing with us. I mean, they knew it was, they knew it was safe, but yeah. So that was probably the only time that I really experienced like being out of country in another culture.
Are you intimidated by that? I have no interest to leave the United States at all. No. Like, I'm scared to death of all that.
No, I've always had this kind of wide-eyed ambition to explore the world. I mean, one of my dream places to go is Thailand, and to some other places in East Asia, and go to like shrines and some of the more like, I guess, ancestral, ancient places, just to feel that energy, like, I mean, even Mexico, like going to Machu Picchu, seeing the ziggurats and the pyramids in Egypt.
What is a ziggurat?
It's a pyramid. It's a pyramid.
Okay.
But they call them ziggurats. I guess because they're the way that they're made, or that was maybe the original term for them. But it's pretty much a pyramid, and they're pyramids in South America built by indigenous.
Being an energy guy, when you go to places like that, does the energy feel different while you're there?
Yeah, it's not like a it's hard to explain, because it's not really it's kind of just a shift in frequency. If you really sit with it and you're really present with it, you can kind of feel that the deepness of those spaces, like what they truly mean. And that's where that energy, that's where you feel that energy, and how old it is. It's like the appreciation of something ancestral. It connects you to your humanness, and also connects you to, where humans came from. Whether that be from the earth, or from stars, or, from a creator who manipulated dirt.
What do you think?
Man, I think it's a collection of those things.
Okay.
I mean, there's too much science to back the idea of us coming from organic material, from dirt, from carbon, from nothing, evolving over time into what we are now. I think I'm still on that path. I believe in a creator. I believe there's a God. I believe that I can lean on that idea when something feels bigger than myself and I don't know what to do with it. I can hand it over to that understanding and let whatever will is at play, take place, kind of take the wheel. I believe there were people who were saviors of God that have visited the earth, gurus and prophets and holy men that have come to show us, like,
in a world full of all that noise, how do you discern a difference between real and fake?
I think it's up to every individual person and to understand that. And in my experience, I question everything. So I don't really, I dive deep into the religion and the understanding of them, and I can look at the rituals, and I can look at the things that they do objectively, and show that's and see in my mind that that's not what it's about. It's more about the spiritual connection, the relationship, and what it does for you spiritually. So I think if you take that approach, without judgment, without fear, you'll quickly see what's real and what's not. There's so many gurus out there that are just, and they call themselves gurus, and they're out there just to make money. And that stuff reveals itself. If you give it enough time and space, and you don't dive head first into those things with a bias, the truth always reveals itself. And that's kind of my playbook. I believe truth is always going to come out to the forefront, and it's only a matter of time before it does. And that's a powerful thing, even in the minute, small relationship stuff. Like, you can have friends that lie to you, and you're like, okay, well, I know you're lying. And you can either get caught up in all the energy and all the anger and all the frustration, and you can say, fuck you, and I know you're a liar, blah, blah, blah. Or you can look at that person like they're human too, and they're just trying to protect something. Obviously, their ego. Obviously, they're not ready to reveal that. So you just give it time, and you love it. You love them. And if they decide not to tell you, then that's their problem. That's eating them up. Probably worse than you could ever come at them. 10 times. I'd say 10 times worse than anybody could say anything to them. They feel ashamed. And that's one of the big things that probably keeps people lying, is shame. But those people on those platforms, when they get to such high heights and they're making that type of money, it's almost like they start to believe their lies, and nothing can tell them different.
Yeah.
And it's you can see that arrogance. You can feel that arrogance. I've met people who practice all kinds of religions who are humble in their religion, and they have their, I've met Christian preachers who are extremely spiritual based. There's no judgment in their heart. You can tell them anything, and there's not going to be cast any judgment. There's going to be love and just spiritual guidance. I've met Buddhists who say they're vegan, and then I catch them eating fried chicken, and so it's like it's all over the place, and to me it's funny. It's like, oh, you're human. You tried to not act like you're human, but you fucking are. So quit acting like you're not. You're holier than thou, and just be human. And I think that's the deepest spiritual connection we can have, is discovering. I mean, for me, there's a saying, I'm not a human. Yeah, I'm not a human having a spiritual experience. I'm a spiritual being having a human experience. I hear that quite often.
That's pretty deep. Explain that.
Yeah. So beyond our bodies, there is there's a consciousness. There's everything that's inside of us, everything we think, everything we visualize inside our minds. Without this body, that still exists. And there's no way you can prove that it doesn't. And So that's where the idea of the spiritual being first in line comes. You know, we've come to this earth as a spiritual consciousness, as awareness itself, to have a human experience that would teach us to have more awareness wherever we go next. Whether that's dispersed into energy through being worm food, which, you know, if you're by your own standard, I guess, a good person, because we can go down that route, like what's good and what's evil. It's all major paradox, and you know, it can get super deep. But I think if you're,
do you believe in good and evil, or do you just believe in people? Like, I just believe in choices.
Yeah.
Like, as much as I'm a Christian man, I believe that there is good versus evil, but I don't think that that's necessarily a human thing.
I mean, it's a balance thing. It's more of a, from my understanding and what I believe, it's more of a balance. Good and evil wouldn't exist without somebody thinking something is good to go against it, right? Evil, good wouldn't exist without evil. So it's all by, you know, all these things have been built into our society. I can only imagine how it got there, like murder. You know, I think that's probably one of the worst things somebody could do. You know, basic worst things somebody could do. There's a lot more evil things, but think about the first person that was murdered, or first person that committed a murder. You know, think about the emotions that rose, that like, oh, I just killed somebody that was close to me, or I took a life that was just like mine. You know, there's some deep thoughts that come with that. And
have you had the chance to, with being such like a spiritual guy, have you had a chance to really sit down and talk to people who's made like wild choices like that in life? Maybe not obviously as like extreme as murder, but like, I guess like being a guide. I mean, I'm sure confessions come your way.
yeah.
Do you see that doing what you do, I guess?
Yeah, I do. I mean, there's a lot of guys definitely want to come in, and a lot of the times it's more drug use and the types of drugs. And because in my space, you know, creatives are most of the time have so much overwhelming emotion. I feel like creatives tap into the emotion of themselves and the world on a way deeper level than most people. Because it's, I mean, ultimately that's the creator, that's creator energy, you know, that's God energy. So you're feeling everything all at once. And a lot of the times they don't know what to do with those feelings. Some of them will go and put it into music, but then they get tapped out because they don't know how to really process it through the music. So they're like, I need something to give me that, you know, edge to tap in, or I need these thoughts to stop long enough for me to actually put them into words, or, you know, just traumatic things are so overwhelming for them that they have to use drugs. That, and I mean, I've had people come to me talking about like domestic violence, like men hitting their spouse or hitting their significant other. And that was always a tough one, because I'm not a supporter of that.
Yeah.
You know, so, but I also see, like, it's crazy. It's hard, and it's very hard to like see the other side of that, and to see this person hurting enough to the point where they would have to lash out like that. Like, what are they going through in their minds that makes them that angry to lash out? Because I mean, there's got to be some idea of regret. I mean, over time, doing it
You would
over
think,
and over.
yeah.
Well,
Like any kind of abusive person, I'm like, do you not like? Is there no shame afterward?
I think the first few times probably, and that's just what I've gathered. You know, like I've had guys tell me I'm just numb to it.
Oh.
You know, like yeah, the first few times it happened, I was so ashamed. I was so like I felt so guilty. I didn't know what to do. I just wanted to leave. I didn't know how to make things better. And then it's like you don't do anything about it. You just cover it up. Or they didn't do anything about it. They covered it up and they didn't process those emotions, and they didn't go deep to the place of where maybe they were abused and they didn't want to revisit that. So they're just projecting what they went through onto somebody else. And it's hard to love somebody through that space, through that lens. I guess seeing them, you know, and saying, wow, you're just a hurt human too. You know, most men who are in their right minds, they hear somebody hitting their significant other and they're like jumping up to fight, you know. And that's definitely like in the back of my head all the time. But I've seen the other side of guys going through that stuff, and they discover such a deepness about themselves that they're able to correct that by actually exploring. And I mean, it happens a lot in the military.
Really?
Oh yeah. I mean, guys come back from war. They have all these feelings that they're covering up or trying to numb out. And so they take that out on their significant other. And domestic violence is huge in the military.
I knew that cheating was like a insane thing in the military. But
yeah, infidelity. It's
smacking each other up too.
Oh yeah, definitely. And why did they, you know, most of those guys were never an abusive person before, right? They had some sort of emotional control. They knew that wasn't right. And then they went through that traumatic experience overseas, and they come back and they're just, you know, they don't know what to do with those things.
You were in the military, right?
Mm-hmm.
And did you get deployed?
I got deployed to Iraq. Yeah, there were definitely things that happened that were really intense and scary, and which is crazy because that feels like such a past life.
Really?
Yeah, I've done so much like work to get beyond that life. But yeah, definitely went through. It was like the Wild West out there. We had a moment where one of the units pulled out, and they pulled out all of their big CRAMs. We were gearing up to leave, and they were doing this big convoy, and one of the main units there had pulled out their CRAMs. CRAMs are like weapons that, at least at the time, I don't know if military is, you know, has any new tech, but they were weapons that shot, I think, like a 30 mil round at mortars.
It was like an anti-mortar
gun?
gun?
It was like an anti-mortar gun. So there was a computer on it that could like track, and then you would hear it go. It was like really loud, and yeah. And so yeah, there was a moment where they took all those down because they were leaving Iraq. So they took their equipment with them, and we started getting mortars incoming. Which would normally.
How long were you over there?
I was over there for a year.
A full year?
Mm-hmm.
Holy cow!
Yeah, and
what year was this? Was this
2010 to 2011? It was OEF Operation Iraqi, or OIF Operation Iraqi Freedom.
Yeah.
I think. That's when they changed it. There was like there's different operations throughout the years, but I was in for 12 years.
Oh, you served. Holy
yeah.
shit. Okay. Wow. I thought when you briefly mentioned it, like it's like 4 in and out.
Well, that's why I say like it feels like such a past life. Like I recollect on it quite a bit, but I try to pull the good stuff out of it that I learned, like the discipline, and you know, I try to look at the people that I met and the mentors that I had and draw strength from it instead of negativity.
Yeah.
And that's been hard, but honestly, like ayahuasca. And
what made you stay in for 12 years?
So I was in for 6 initially, right? Which it's really 4, but then you have 2 years of what's called IRR, inactive ready reserve, which means you're off duty, but you could be called if there's a major issue. You know, you could be called if they need extra bodies within those 2 years to go back out and deploy. So, yeah, I did 4 years at first, and then within those 4 years, I was in Iraq when my time was getting ready to re-up, and they said, we'll give you another $20,000 bonus if you re-up. At the time, I didn't have anything going on. You know, I had college back at home. I didn't really even want to do that. So it wasn't really like, I had no like place where I was going at the point. So I was like, okay, yeah, I'll do another 6 years. They were like, if you don't re-up, we're just going to send you home and you won't finish out this deployment. You won't get paid all the hazard pay. You know, they talked me up.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, well, I don't have anywhere else to go or anything else to do. So, you know, fuck it. Let's stay in. And ended up to another 6 years. So yeah, I got out in like 2018.
What made you get out? I mean, because 12 years in, man, you're kind of almost halfway there.
Yeah. So what was it? Yeah. 20. So I was officially got my discharge papers in 2020, but I was out on IRR in 2018. And I started the studio in 2016. So I was still doing 2 years of drill while running the studio. But the studio and where I wanted to go with my music career and how much I wanted to travel and that kind of stuff.
That makes sense, yeah.
Yeah. And I didn't like the culture of the military. It felt, I mean, every time we went out and did like a 2-week field training, we would have a party afterwards. Somebody would cheat on their wife, or somebody would get way too drunk and get lost in the woods, or, you know, somebody would end up doing something stupid. Or they all want to go out and go to like Hooters and hit on all the girls, and they're all married. And I'm like, I don't want to be a part of this. It feels like frat energy, you know? Far from a frat boy, like period. So I didn't like the culture. I mean, my dad was in the military for 21 years. So I already kind of knew a little bit of it. He did a good job at, like, you know, staying out of those spaces. And plus he was in recruiting for the better half of his career. So he didn't really have to deal with a lot of things like that, I imagine, or he kept it away from the home. So, but I saw the military, like ways, you know, a lot of the broken people that joined so that they could try to figure out how, you know, if they could try to figure out their purpose, and, you know, people who are just trying to escape the life that they're in, or maybe they're stuck. I saw a lot of people in Radcliffe, especially kids in high school, that just felt like stuck, or they didn't have anywhere to go or anything to do after high school. So they just joined the military, and that was like the thing to do. So Yeah, it was.
I got a best friend.
I didn't really like the military.
That's what I always hear. Yeah, I got a best friend. He just retired. He did so many different deployments, man. He joined directly after high school. He had known he was always going to be going in. That was his life plan since. I mean, I've known this kid since we were in 6th grade.
Yeah,
and the only PTSD, like, he still comes back and he's still him. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know how he's served as much as he has, dude is still him. But we got to talking, and one day thing he's like, that kind of fucks with him is, like, dude, I went over there to help all these people, right? Like, we were sent over there to train these people, to teach these people, help these people. And then we get pulled out, and then every single person I helped, they got killed. Like, they just ran back in there and took everything back over. He's like, I feel like my last 20 years was completely for nothing.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like it's like I thought I was doing something.
Yeah.
Purpose, and to see that the last 20 years of my purpose was wiped away, like that's his PTSD.
That's definitely one of the battles that I struggled with the most, is what difference was actually really made. I felt like a pawn. I felt like I was used for some greater political, most likely commercial purpose, capitalist purpose. And that hurts, like, because I mean, kind of the same thing. Like, so when I was overseas, we worked for a time. I worked at a location called Badad, and it was a motor pool. It was a gas station. It was like mostly a motor pool, and so we had civilian Iraqis that were working on civilian trucks and cars, or they weren't civilian. I say civilian cars. They were like diesel Ford Explorers and stuff like that we would use, U.S. military would use to drive around the base, because we didn't use a lot of Humvees unless we went out on convoys and that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, I got, like, every Wednesday we would go over there and they would have lunch for us, and they were so hospitable. And I mean, the food was amazing. The women would cook for us. They would serve us chai tea afterwards, and we would sit and, try to communicate. We got some really deep cultural experience with those guys. And then, I wonder, for a long time, I wondered if they were ever able to keep their families together. If something happened to them, if, Al Qaeda coming right back in destroyed the system that they had, deeply worked hard for. Because I mean, these guys were trying to change their lives. They were civilian contractors coming in from wherever they were living outside of the base, whether that's, we don't know what type of situation they were in outside of the base. I assume it wasn't their very best. I assume it was very poor. And for them to come in and they have this purpose and they're getting paid and they're doing something for their family, and then we pull out and their oppressors come right back in. It's like, damn, dude, what did we even do there?
Yeah,
absolutely nothing. We were just bodies on the ground to show. We were like a display of force, And I there's so many guys out there still in certain areas that are getting hammered, and they're losing their lives and trying to fight against these bad guys. But yeah, I go into like deep conspiracies in my mind, like all this could be stopped. I think it all could be stopped very easily.
Did you follow politics and stuff while you were serving? Like, did you keep up with current events and all that stuff?
So I did for a little bit, because I think Obama was president at the time, and every soldier could probably tell you it felt like a dog and pony show with that whole big convoy that they displayed on TV pulling out of Iraq, because he was like, he promised that he was going to get us out of Iraq. And that was just a display. You know, there was so much more going on in the back, in behind the scenes, that the media wasn't showing. We still had troops in Iraq. We still have troops in Iraq, I imagine.
What are some of the conspiracy? You a big conspiracy guy? Like you play with conspiracies?
Yeah, I play with conspiracies in my mind, just from like experiences and seeing what I've seen. Like, it's yeah, like,
what are some conspiracies that you really dive into? Maybe some where your wife is like, even like, come on, buddy.
Oh man, gosh, the Twin Towers. That was all fake.
Yeah, you think that's an inside job thing?
I think so. Yeah. Gosh, I mean, I could go all the way back to the 80s and like the CIA putting crack on the streets. But yeah, I think that was the start of, I think the Twin Towers was the start of this. It was like to revamp an old, well, they used the facade of a holy war, right? I think that was one of the biggest things. But really, the biggest holy war that was happening was between Palestine and Israel, and that's been happening for however long. So Iraq was really more about money, about oil. And I mean, Osama came to America and studied in America at American colleges, and then got indoctrinated with something and decided to go. He was like a CIA operative. Like, yeah, I mean, Osama. Osama bin Laden. Yeah. Yeah. It's, I mean, also thinking like, man, Charles Manson, CIA operative who became a cult leader.
Now, do you think that they just let that happen, or do you think that they kind of held the hand a little bit just to see what he would do?
That's the fence I'm on.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Because I don't think it's beyond forces in the government to make those things happen. To like help, like hand them the cards, be like, hey, play these cards, and you know, I don't think it's beyond them to do that. But it could also be like, let's sit back and watch what this guy does. You know, I think a lot of these things are curated. A lot of major,
I feel like they do a lot of like social experiments. Just do shit to observe our reactions.
Well, there's also like this steps to control a society. I can't remember where it comes from off the top of my head, but there's like a list. Let me see if I can find it real quick. This is where you need like on Joe Rogan to do this, just like typing shit up. I need a Googler.
I need a jingle.
5 stages. Yeah, Google just gave me like 5 stages. This is probably like along the same lines as what I'm thinking, but let's see. Stage 1, discontent and rumblings. The process begins with a group of leader capitalizes on existing or fabricated dissatisfaction with the current social, economic, political conditions. Then stage 2, the false savior, first revolution. Stage 3, censorship, persecution, propaganda, ending proposition. Stage 4, the crisis. Stage 5, purges, genocide, and total control. Like, how are you? How do you look at that? Yeah, how do you look at that and say that's not happening?
Yeah, that's wild.
It is. Yeah. And there's other, it goes so deep. Like,
so then what's your biggest fear when it comes to conspiracies? Which one are you afraid of the most?
I don't know if it's like a fear, because I don't think I fear for myself. Well, maybe it is fear. I don't fear for myself. I fear for my daughter. Mostly because at the end of the day, I think I know how to prepare for those things. For the most part, I'm not like some, super like, what do they call them? Like bunker.
You're a prepper dad.
Prepper. I'm not a special forces operator. So I don't have it all, but I have a sense of survival, and I know what to do in the woods, and how to be, and how to stay away from danger, and how to handle danger. I think of more of it's like an anticipation. Like, I already know these things are going to happen. Will it happen in my lifetime?
Okay.
Maybe.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Maybe not.
Let's take 5 and smoke a cigarette.
Sure.
Let you check out the face. So yeah, tell me about the tattoo.
So, yeah, we'll start with the face. Like, obviously the old woman, she's like a representation of a few different things, just deep ancestral wisdom. They also call ayahuasca grandmother. So she's representative of grandmother. And kind of just that like divine ancient wisdom. I believe that women hold, women hold a lot of wisdom. Wisdom to me is a very feminine energy.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I think of wisdom. I think of like the old dude on the front porch with a pipe.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. And a lot of people have different perceptions of it, for sure. And I could see that for sure.
Why is feminine energy and wisdom go hand in hand for you?
I think I mostly correlate it to, in a biblical sense. My father, and I want to do more research into this as well. I'm just in a different space at the moment, but my father has done a lot of research into the beginnings of like the Judaic priesthood. And he found through his research that women were the first priests. And I believe he told me they were called wisdom, or called wisdoms. And of course, priests are spiritual leaders, they're spiritual guides, and they're performers of rites and rituals, and holders of interpreters of sacred scripture. And priests in any religion come with that knowledge. And I think of the balance of the Trinity in the biblical sense of having a, God is neither man nor woman. He's a being of all. She's a being of all. And then God split himself into 3 parts: himself, the Holy Spirit, and Jesus. And so the Holy Spirit and Jesus are, in my interpretation, balance of both masculine and feminine energy. You get your guidance in the spiritual understanding of Christianity. You get your guidance and your intuition and your discernment from the Holy Spirit. Jesus said in scripture that he was sending us a helper. And that was exactly it. That was, our something to guide us and give us intuition and discernment for the things that aren't him.
So just as when Eve ate the apple, right? It brought her knowledge, like forbidden knowledge, I guess, right?
Knowledge of good and evil,
right? Do you feel like, so with such a deep connection that psychedelics have with spirituality like that, do you not feel that maybe you're eating the forbidden fruit in a sense, and maybe we shouldn't be tapping into that based on spiritual laws? Or do you feel like it's bringing us closer?
I think it brings us closer. For one thing,
I feel like we're peeking at the Christmas presents.
Yeah,
thing, you know.
Yeah. For one thing, I don't think anything was. I mean, the spiritual fruit could have easily been a mushroom.
Right, but if she wasn't supposed to eat it, she ate it anyways. Are you not doing the same thing?
I think so, but also, I mean, there is this belief, like, especially like, which is crazy, and we can get into that, but in Judaism, there's a belief of like us not being allowed to have noetic sight, which is essentially that, like sight through the eyes of God. But then there's this kind of battle in my mind, like, you know, God revealing himself to certain characters in the Bible, and speaking to them directly, Elijah, Moses, you know, Moses in the burning bush, God spoke through a burning bush. You know, there's thoughts on that could have been like a marijuana plant, and, you know, he had this explosion of consciousness after,
right,
you know, getting high. I mean, everything on this earth was created by, in my belief, by a creator. So if there's things on this earth that are meant to that help us, that act as medicine, that bring us a deeper understanding of ourselves, our humanity, and our connection to God, why I don't see why that would be a bad thing. You know, if God is a jealous God and wants, you know, jealous in the sense of he wants his creation to love him or her, why would he try to keep them from that? There's a lot of people who have turned from ayahuasca and psychedelics. I think mostly probably because of fear. They got deep into spaces that they didn't understand and how to process, and so they turned to something that seems more comfortable and easy, like religion. And some people need that religious discipline to maintain their sanity, you know? But I don't think it's inherently bad. I think it's bad when you do see those things and you've experienced that awareness and you go against it.
What do you mean?
Before we jump back into things, I just want to take a minute to let you guys know that I am accepting new clients. So if you would like to tell your story on the show, or if you would just like a new tattoo, head over to www.blackandgray.family or scan the QR code on the screen, and let's get back to the episode.
You experience your, like, through, so I can tell you kind of one of the craziest stories, and that would probably help, that I went through. And this changed my perception on a lot of things. So I went and did ayahuasca, and this journey started with a face of a jaguar coming into my field of view. I had a blindfold on. I was laying in a bed. Medicine started coming on. I saw this jaguar's face come into, I guess you could call it like my mind's eye. And I just asked, why are you here? And it turned around and it became a full body of a jaguar. And it started walking down this path kind of illuminated. And it was a dark rainforest that I was in. And it started walking. It was probably about 10 feet ahead of me. And then it turned around and looked at me like, waiting for you. Come on. So I followed it. And it was crazy because it felt like this jaguar was my brother. Like it felt like he was family, like he was there for me. And like I knew him from like forever. And so I followed it and it took me to the base of this mountain. And it looked up and then walked off into the woods. And it was like telling me, like, you got to climb this mountain. All right. So I went up the mountain, started making my trek up the mountain, and there were all these different like paths that I could go into. But there was like, anytime that I went to go towards one of those paths, there was like this static feedback, almost like an agitation telling me, don't go. There was like a feeling like, don't go to that. Just keep on your path. You're supposed to go. I'm like, okay. So just keep going up and up and up. And I get close to the top and I see this shrine start to come up out of the ground. And it's like pillars of gold and navy blue and like, looks like almost like ancient Roman type pillars, but there's this writing that I can't make out. It's almost like a mixture of like Arabic and Japanese, like mixed together. And there's these inscriptions on and around the pillars. It was like inscriptions of light that were just hovering around the pillars. And in the center of this shrine, another column with a blue and gold trimmed box started rising as I got closer, and it rose super high. And then when I got to the base of it, it all came down in front of me. And I remember feeling afraid, but then there was like this thing in me that said that it's not fear, it's anticipation, it's excitement and curiosity. So I led with curiosity. And when it came down in front of me, I noticed on the box it said judgment. And I was like, oh, what? Okay. So I'm gonna face judgment, right? Like, there was almost like this sense of like, I guess, humor. I was like, oh, okay, you got me. Like, okay, I see what this is, you know? And then I started narrating, which is usually like a signal that you need more medicine.
What do you mean? What do you mean? Like,
so narrating is like, I've got to a place in my journey where maybe the medicine's starting to wear off, or I'm going in a direction where I'm starting to contemplate how I'm going to interpret this in the future. Maybe in the sharing circle afterwards, after we're done with our journey, I'm going to tell people about this, or like narrating the story, what's happened so far leading up to this point. Instead of being
start
present,
to gain consciousness.
yeah, instead of being present with the vision and being present with the journey. And I kind of told myself, no, I need to stay with this. So it's like, there you go again, Justin, you're narrating. So I stayed with it, and something called me to open the box. I'm like standing here thinking, okay, I see the box, and I think I know what it's about, but I haven't even opened it. So I open the box and there's nothing inside of it, which completely blew my mind. It sounds very like simple, but it blew my mind in the sense of, oh, like now I get, sorry, I just hit the mic. Now I get it. I've been creating all these judgments about myself, which projects onto other people and how I see the world, when actually all these things that I believe about myself in a negative light, judge about myself, doesn't exist. It's not real. That's not who I am. All these things that I've made up, all these, Justin talks too much. Justin's fat. Justin's, doesn't know how to handle social situations.
Any kind of inner opinion.
Yeah, like lots of inner opinion, inner judgment. It doesn't exist. I'm not those things. I'm not what I judge myself to be. I'm not, and nobody else is either. Nobody else is what I judge them to be. And so that completely changed my perspective on how I view others and my relationships with others, and how I essentially move forward with my life and who I become. And, we talked about identity in the first episode. Like, I can attach myself to certain identities and I can be with those things for a moment and not feel obsessed with them, and not feel attached to them, and not feel like that's who I am. Like I buy a motorcycle and now I'm a fucking motorcycle rider,
Right.
You got to get the gear and, like all that stuff. Like, so many people get caught up in those things and it becomes who they are, and they don't realize that they're more beyond that.
So walk me through for someone who's never experienced psychedelic, I guess you could say, walk me through what that's like for some, like as visually descriptive as you can from start to finish. What is that experience like?
So my experience has been with a lot of fear and anxiety going into these things, but it's almost like I know that there's something in there for me. And I always had the mindset, even if I have a bad trip, it's a good trip because it teaches me, it shows me something. It at least shows me that I have fear in certain areas, or where the fear is coming from. So, I mean, mushrooms like are different for me. I always come to like a hole in the ground that I have to decide to dive into. It's like an abyss.
So
ayahuasca is like a little, like it comes on pretty quick, but the visuals come on a little slowly.
What is that? Let's do ayahuasca. So what, you drink it,
mm-hmm.
and then you sit there, and then what, you start to feel tingly, you start to get a body feel?
Yeah. So I can walk you through kind of the logistical side of it and the feeling side of it, I guess. So the way that I've done ayahuasca has been at a retreat center. They are fully, legal. They're able to do this. They have a church, like I explained the first time. They do it from a therapeutic side to really help people heal through these things. They do ceremonies, and what we do at the ceremony is we come in, and there's usually about 12 of us, and there's usually 4 guides. One is the medicine man, and then there's a medicine woman to balance the energy, and then there's 2 entheogen guides there to help. And we all kind of rotate in doing different things to preserve the atmosphere of the space when we're in there. Now, as far as doing the medicine, being a participant, first day we walk in, we have a sharing circle. The sharing circle is what's going on in your life, what's brought you to this space, what's your intention for this space? And also, like, there's a lot of people who want to learn. So we might, do different practices. And so they're very instructional about the practices too. Like, maybe most of the time we do breath work. Breath work is a way to, before we start the journey, to get connected to your body, really feel the breath, understand how to use your breath.
So setting the tone before you participate is really important.
Yep. Setting the tone, setting the intention. And most of the retreat is asked to be kept quiet, except for in the sharing circles. So, prior to medicine, they encourage you to go sit by yourself, journal, think about your intentions, really be with yourself and tap into, just tap into being in that space. And so, and then we get into our all whites. We wear all white, and that's to symbolize like light and purity and coming into the space with, as a clean slate, or at least light colors they ask you to wear. And we get in and we have our intention setting. We have an opening prayer where they call in, guides and archangels and, whatever the person who's opening the ceremony, whatever they feel like they want to call into the space and give thanks to. And we light a candle for ourselves after we've set our intention. We pull like a Ayahuasca tarot card that might tell us, that has like a one word phrase on it or an animal on it or something like that. It's supposed to be kind of like a grounding thing that helps us, clarify intention, whatever. And then the medicine man gets up, and as we're singing, kind of all singing a song, we usually sing a song called, it's Mama Aya, gracias por su medicina, which means Mama Ayahuasca, thank you for the medicine. And we sing that, and as each person gets up and goes to the medicine man and takes their drink. And then we sit in a circle for a little longer while everybody takes their medicine, and we meditate. You can choose to go back to your mat if you want to. For me, probably about 15 minutes after drinking, I usually go back to my mat and I lay down. And
at that 15-minute mark, are you starting to feel any different? Vision starting to get a little weird?
No,
or nothing.
Usually it takes like 30 minutes to an hour to start to digest and start to feel it coming on.
Mm-hmm.
But as you feel it coming on, it's very so going off, the first time I did it, I started feeling it within the first hour. I got real kind of like lightheaded, almost like, I won't say lightheaded, like kind of drunk. I could
loopy headed.
Yeah, I could start
loopy.
Right. I could start to feel that. And so I went and sat outside. And as I'm sitting outside, like it's summertime, that I went out there and fireflies are lighting up the pathway to the driveway, and we're out in the country. So it's a lot of trees, and it just looks like a fairy world. Like, I could feel like heaviness on my eyes, and I felt very euphoric, very happy.
Starts off pretty relaxed.
Yeah, pretty relaxed. You kind of feel this heaviness like in your body, and I started feeling a little sick. So I got up and I went to throw up and I couldn't. So they guided me back to my bed, and I laid down, and I just remember being so comfortable and so like just held by an invisible force, just like being comforted. And then the vision started coming on, and
How does the vision like? So how is your body feeling at this point in the sense of buzz wise? You just feel heavy, or
yeah, you feel like
just really drunk?
Tired. I'd say, and like laying down feels good. You know,
Covering starting to feel a little sluggish.
Yeah, sluggish. Covering up with a blanket and laying down feels great. The visions are very different from the first time you do it compared to the next times you do it. The first time I did it, I saw a bunch of things that, like, my mind was feeding me stuff that it knew would provide me comfort, so that I could go further into my mind. There was like this surface level gate or portal into my mind that I had to go through first before I could get to the deep stuff. And so what I saw first was an ice cream cone with dolphins swimming around it. It was just floating in a checkered.
Is this like you're laying there with your eyes closed and you just kind of get lost in like that weird, you're awake but asleep but kind of deep in a daydreamy kind of trancey feel?
Yeah, like
or
if I
just
really
like wide awake and your eyes are open and like this is the reality you're seeing.
So yeah, that's another thing too. So these visions that I saw was eyes closed. Every vision that I've seen has been eyes closed. Now, in terms of eyes open experiences, it's almost like it's there, but it's not. Like, so I remember it's like in your peripheral, you see it. The medicine man, my very first experience, he's super tall. He's like 6'5" or something like that. He's a tall dude. And he looked like a big orangutan. Like, I just remember him. I opened my eyes from him and I'm looking over at him and he's hunched over this drum and his arms are just like flinging and they're just playing this drum. And he just looks like an orangutan, like beating a drum. And I could see his face like starting to take a different shape. To look like a monkey.
Yeah, that sounds terrifying.
It wasn't. It was very like I don't know. It was very goofy. It was very like there's such a like a curiosity and I don't know how to explain, like, wondrousness about it. Or like whimsical kind of feeling. Like it was like very for me, it was very cool. Like,
okay.
Yeah, like I was like, Attila's a monkey. That's cool. And it didn't, I think because of the situation that was happening, he looked like he was very invested. He looked happy. He looked like he was vested in playing the drum. He looked like he was guiding a ceremony and he was excited about the things people were going through and excited about like his job, his position there, and knew that there was going to be deep healing. And so there was like this playfulness about it. You know, I correlated that kind of monkey thing to him just being like a big playful kid. And that made me feel very comforted in the moment. And that's usually what happens in the ceremonies. You know, you look at these guides and these medicine men as anchors for your journey, right? Sometimes you open your eyes and like, I need something real to show me I'm not like, I'm still here. My body's still here. And so them, you know, playing the drums and that kind of stuff, it's like it anchors you to the space. It's like a tether. You know, you can go out and you have like a tether tied around your foot. Go out to the cosmos, explore it, deepest parts of your mind, time and space, wherever you go. But you always have a place to come back to. So, but there's definitely been moments where I've looked out and I've saw other people and their faces seem to change and like there's a darkness that scares me. But then I remind myself, like, that's my perception. And I've done it enough now where I can say to myself, Justin, you're seeing that because of something inside you. I want you to explore that. So I'll go with that. But the feeling, it goes up and down because your body's also trying to digest the DMT, trying to digest the MAOI inhibitor. So your heart rate raises and it slows, just like, mushrooms. Your heart rate, your blood pressure goes up and down in certain moments. Because it's essentially, I think your body is at some point thinks it's like a poison, so it tries to get it out. And that's one of the things about purging. That's why you purge. It's your body, scientifically, logistically, it's your body trying to get stuff out. And then spiritually, you're releasing that energy. Whether it be good or bad, you're just releasing.
Does everybody
energy.
throw up?
Yes and no. So everybody purges somehow, right? The most common is to throw up, but there's other ways to purge. Like people go into extreme sweat, like they just sweat everything out. Some people cry for hours, just can't stop crying. Me, I'm mostly shit. I throw up every once in a while, but I mostly have to shit a lot. Yeah. Wow. And it just comes out like, you don't eat much beforehand. You have like a smoothie or something. So it just comes out like water. But yeah, so two common ways of purging is either puke or you shit. And so one thing that's interesting is they save the purge, but the vomit purge, not the shit purge. Okay. They have an outhouse. They have like a compost toilet for that. It's very sanitary how they keep everything, separated. But the purge, because they call it in these South American cultures that do this, when you throw up, it's not you getting sick, you're getting well. Right. And also the what's coming out is the ayahuasca. It's like Drano for your mind, so a body, like it clears everything out, detoxes you, and then it comes back up. And that's when you throw it up. So they save that, they pour it all into a bucket, we take it to a place in the woods somewhere, and we say a prayer. Once the ceremony is over, the whole weekend ceremony is over, we take it and we say a prayer and we dump it. We give it back to earth. It's a very ceremonial thing. Like we say, thank you for what you gave us. Now we return you back to the earth. Which is, to anybody outside of the,
sounds real culty, bro.
It sounds real culty. It sounds real gross. But they don't, they don't try to indoctrinate you with beliefs. There's people that I've experienced these trips with who have been blasted out into other worlds in space, and they've talked with beings in the Pleiades and, what are they, like the Greys and Octarians, and they have these, wild things. And Attila sits there all the time and he's like, yeah, I totally believe that. That's crazy. That's awesome that you had, not crazy. That's awesome you had that experience. They don't like try to form what you went through into a thing. They let you have that experience, and they more guide you into understanding how that experience went. So I believe that's what separates it from, a cult. And yeah, it can kind of sound like that for sure. And it seems like, when you get there and you do the ceremony and it's very kumbaya and very like a loving space, you're like, oh man, I could see how people would think this is, culty for sure.
Yeah, I get Midsomner vibes.
Yeah. Oh, dude. Yeah, I feel that for sure. Dude, they just throw old people off the rock and crush their heads. Oh my God, that was such a freaky movie. Yeah. Luckily, nobody's been killed or hurt. And that's not what they stand for at all. But it's a very different experience, a very different world. It's a very spiritually guided world. And I will say there are some ayahuasca churches, psilocybin churches that do that try to indoctrinate, try to push their belief systems on others,
Just
which
like
is
any
weird.
church.
Yeah, which is weird because psychedelics are such a mind-opening thing that I feel like anybody who does psychedelics on a invested from an invested place and they're really trying to figure themselves out would probably see through that type of manipulation pretty easily. Have some awareness around it at least. You would think that, but I imagine like some dudes could use. I mean, LSD has been used that way before to like control people if they don't know what they're
Open them
getting.
up to suggestion.
Yeah, if they don't know what they're getting, they don't know what's going on. They haven't been, explained to about it, and somebody hands them this medicine that like opens up their mind, and then that person's like, I'm the holder of this medicine. I could definitely see that being a issue, But hopefully, the medicine would do its work, and on a spiritual side, and tell you that it's wrong. There's been, I mean, just in that sense, there was an experience I had where I was doing Entheo guide training, and it was the last Entheo guide training, and I was facilitating the journey with my classmates. And
Before we jump back into things, I just want to take a minute to let you guys know that I am accepting new clients. So if you would like to tell your story on the show, or if you would just like a new tattoo, head over to www.blackandgray.family or scan the QR code on the screen. And let's get back to the episode.
Medicine women decided to sit in with us, and she was going to be a participant. She was going to drink medicine. And so her intention was to figure out what was going on with the water issue on the land. And she had a vision of, while she was on ayahuasca, had a vision of somebody stealing water from their well. A truck pulling up with a pump and pulling water out, right? Very clear as day. And she didn't tell this to anybody until later. She spoke with one of the other participants that was in training with us who was also on her journey. But she spoke with her around dinner time after the journey, and this person revealed to the medicine woman that she had seen a truck pull up to the well while they were out there, like not on a journey. She was totally sober when she saw this happen. And so Alex then said, no way. That's what I saw in my vision. So you're telling me you saw a truck pull up and put a hose in our well? She goes, yeah. And she's like, that's what I saw in my vision. When did this happen? She was like, oh, it happened yesterday at so-and-so time. She was like, I was back at the main house. So it was pretty interesting. Alex hadn't told anybody about this. Then here comes this other girl walking up and saying, hey, I just wanted to tell you something. We were talking about the water situation. I think somebody's stealing your water. And Alex is like, what the? That's what I saw. So
have you experienced any shared experiences like that?
So Yes. Interestingly enough, that same girl who came to me after a journey and said that she visited this alternate dimension, and she saw me sitting there just meditating, but it wasn't me. It was like a higher version of me. And like, he told her that he was a version of me that I, the physical form of me, hadn't stepped into yet. So, yeah. So probably it wasn't majorly significant in my journey, but it was kind of like a nod to understanding of how this medicine works. So this past year, when I went to do medicine in April, I had a moment where I felt myself in deep meditation in this kind of like mountain plateau. I couldn't really see too much around me, a little bit of grass and rock, but I was like just meditating there. And then this girl walks up and she's like, "Oh, hey, Justin." I'm like, "Hello." That was like the moment I was like, "Oh, I've stepped into that person, cool. Like I see you here, and I was like, in that vision, I told her, I was like, "We've been here before." I was like, "You told me that you were here. You saw me here." And she just kind of like smirked and then walked off. I was like, yeah, it was a very like, I had forgotten about that whole experience prior to that, so was it in the back of my mind somewhere? And my mind decided to show that to me and said, it's showing me, oh, you're stepping into that person that she's described, not in a spiritual way, but just in my mind calculating all those things that have happened in the past to me and bringing that memory back up. It could have been. It was a very encouraging message that was being given to me through that these medicines don't work linearly. They work multidimensionally, whether that's dimensions in your mind or dimensions in a spiritual atmosphere outside of your body. They work in those ways, it feels very magical. There's a million ways I could explain it, but I just leave it up to the messages. You've stepped into the person that this other person saw, and you're fully embodying this higher version of yourself now. Gave me some confidence, for sure.
Have you ever gotten any creative ideas while on a journey?
Oh yeah, tons. Skits, funny skits, and songs just come to me. Songs come to me all the time, but super amplified when in journey. Like I did San Pedro this past year, and that really helped me learn how to turn my anxiety into creativity. San Pedro for me is a very push-pull medicine. It felt like if I laid down, I just couldn't get comfortable because there was like this excitement and anxiety about it. But the more I explored it, I learned that I needed to transmute that energy to a creative energy. So what I did was, I sat down. I was on San Pedro. I sat down and picked up a guitar, just fell into this whole other world, this dimension. And nobody was in the room at the time. I was playing, and I just started free flowing, making a song. And I got deep into it. Next thing I know, I opened my eyes and everybody's sitting around just watching me. And one of the ladies goes, "There he is." And then another guy goes, "He's back." I'm like, so you all could see that I was just gone. I was just completely gone. And one of the guys was like, "Yeah, you could see it in your eyes that you just were not aware of any of us walking into the room or anything." I'm like, "No, I had no clue." So yeah, this deep like flow state of creativity, just from a an untapped well, just poured out of me, without even doing anything but sitting down and grabbing a guitar and playing it.
Like nothing that has come to you in a vision that has come to fruition that you're like, oh, that's.
Oh, well, actually, yes. I had this vision where natives came to me, and it was like my eyes were half open and half shut, and it felt like they were like projecting themselves through a beam of light coming through the window in the yurt. It was a native, like a couple of Native Americans, and they told me that there was some past family transgressions that needed to be corrected, like ancestral transgressions that need to be corrected for me to break a certain cycle that would lead me into abundance and success, and not just like financial, but like joy, well, just life success. And I didn't know what it was at the moment, but near the end of that weekend, I just had like this heaviness on me, and I didn't know what to do about it. And one of the girls there, she was also an Entheo guide, and she performs like these like kind of like medicine ceremonies that are it's more of like she guides you into a deep meditation where you visit, like you visualize visiting the underworld and try to receive messages from that space. So I went, and she was like, "I can walk you through that." And I was like, "Okay, cool." I'm just grasping at anything to try to figure it out. And so we went in the room, and I laid down, and she started guiding me through this meditation. And as I got deeper into it, my body started to like convulse, and I started to cough heavily, like I was like trying to cough something out. But I got this like deep, and it's part of it is you're still like, the medicine is still in you for like 2 weeks. You're not journeying, you're not tripping for 2 weeks, but it's still like very much in you. So you're spiritually open. And I got this message from those same Native Americans, like, this is what you need to do. You need to burn this dream catcher that was given to you. And this will be once it's burned, it'll pass into our plane, and it will be a gift, an offering to us that we will now correct your future, basically. And so I was like, okay, I'm just going to go with it. All this, like, to me, it even still seems wild and crazy and weird, but I have this curiosity, like, okay, what if I do this? What's going to happen? So I get back home from the retreat, and I tell my parents, and that was the year that everything blew up. After that, everything, all financial success, baby came. Yeah, just so much abundance and so much joy and so much healing came that year without me even really reflecting on that moment. I kind of just tried to let that moment be what it was and let it pass. Yeah. So if you think about like things coming to fruition, for sure, like that to me had something to do with where I'm at today. Releasing that, those generational curses and transgressions and, things that were on a spiritual plane that, were waiting to be fixed.
So do you believe in the supernatural?
Yeah, 100%. Oh yeah.
So what do you feel about ghosts?
Energy. Focused energy.
Have you had any experiences?
I have. Yeah, more recent in Bowling Green with I don't know if Alan's talked to you about his ghost experiences at all before in the 1140 house that we lived in.
I think maybe briefly, yeah.
Yeah, there's some creepy stuff that happened there and happened in my apartment too. Things would just go flying off the shelves. He had a moment where he caught it on camera, where he was doing a shot in his living room, and all the way in the back, nobody was home. All the way in the back, a guitar string plucked. He went to go look at the guitar, and it was standing upright in the stand. It was nothing happened, and they caught it on camera.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and there's no animals, no
right,
nothing. Nobody was in the house, so it was pretty creepy. And then as a kid, I've had experiences like doorknobs twisting and shaking and not really understanding it. And growing up in the church, growing up in the church, they were like, "Oh, it's because you brought this Harry Potter book home," and I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" But that was the mindset at the time. So of course, it's like, "I'll take it back. I promise." Yeah. That was a very.
So then how did your parents feel when you first came to them and said that you were pursuing all of this?
So, yeah, my parents knew that I struggled for a long time with my mental health, just who I was, period. And I didn't tell them what we were. I don't think I told them what we were doing right up front. I just told them we're going to go out to a retreat center in California and we're going to do some like therapeutic healing stuff. And they were like, "Okay, that's great." I came back and I showed them my journal. I told them the experience and I was like, "I have to tell you guys this because not for the sake of support, but so that I don't sit here and worry about and I can release that anxiety, that tension that I might have because I know you guys are not in this world and I know you guys don't understand it and I know that it seems taboo and all these things that my parents have been out of the church for a long time and they've really taken their time to grow their spiritual relationship outside of all rules and regulations and hierarchies and church man-made things. So there was an openness about them when I came to them about it. Of course, my mom was like, "So when do you stop doing this? When when does it end? When do you stop doing drugs?" And I'm like, "Well, maybe never, because there's this idea that like you can go through all the healing and you can, find routines in your life that work for you. But like revisiting the medicine is like revisiting an old friend. Let's go check in, and see how they're doing. And sometimes the medicine, when it's like that, you've already opened all the doors in your consciousness. So the medicine can be almost like a playing field. Just you can kind of create and do what you want in there. Or you could take it to get insight on new things in your life. and know how to work with the medicine to understand that, and it's not so painful anymore. Yeah, there's a lot to it, but my parents were supportive. They were pretty supportive in the beginning, and they're both very interested in it. They're very like, they've seen what it's done for me. They've seen how it's helped me grow and heal. They've seen how it's completely changed me. I've told them every experience that I've had. It's brought our relationship closer, and I feel like they kind of understand me because I've had these experiences and I can explain them now. So yeah, when I initially told them, they were kind of like, "Oh, okay. It's not dangerous." No, it's not. It's very, curated.
So take me back to the story you were telling me before we started filming.
Oh, yeah.
That whole thing.
This is probably one of the first experiences that woke me up to some synchronicities here on Earth that then guided me into living out my purpose and understanding my path a lot better. I was living, I think this was pre-deployment. I was living in Bowling Green. I was going to WKU. One night I went over to a friend's house. We were in his apartment and there was a party happening upstairs. The apartment itself was like, the roof was like, it was like a 3-level apartment. We were on the 2nd level. They were on the 3rd. And they were having this party, and I kind of knew. I didn't know at the time. I didn't know the people at the party. But when I doing later research, like I knew some of the people. I grew up with a couple of them that went to E-Town High School. I went to John Hardin, so I knew them within friend groups. But didn't really put the whole picture together until the end. So they're having this party, and this guy named Danny gets into a fight with his girlfriend, and they break up, and they're both drunk, and he climbs on top of the roof, like 30 feet up, and falls off. Whether he jumped or slipped, I don't know. I like to think he slipped, but he fell off and landed on his back, hit his head, was out cold, blood coming out the back of his head. I'm sitting in my buddy's apartment. I hear screams. And so we're like, we hear it over his roommate vacuuming. So his roommate's vacuuming, and we hear this girl just shriek. We both look at each other like, what the hell? I took off out the door, ran downstairs, see this guy laying on the ground.
Was it on the concrete?
It was like on gravel.
Okay.
Yeah. Like concrete and gravel together. And there's broken glass all around him. And they're like, he fell. And one guy's like down next to him, like shaking his chest. And I'm like, first of all, stop doing that. And then I said, you go call the police. Everybody else get back inside. We don't need a scene. We're going to make it worse for him. If he's conscious, if he can hear you. You guys are scaring the shit out of him, probably. So I sit there with him, and he's kind of like shaking and convulsing. And I grab his head and I hold it still, so that way, if there's any neck injuries, he doesn't further hurt himself. So I get down, and I'm holding his head, and I'm in shorts. I cut my knee open. His blood gets in my blood. It's like a whole crazy experience. And
so what, the ambulance just gets there and takes him away?
Yeah, the ambulance gets there, and I help them get him onto the board and stabilize his neck. And I go to the hospital afterwards and I tell them what happened. I got, I don't know what was going on with him. I didn't know what type of stuff he was into. I didn't put the idea of who he was together in my mind yet. So went to the hospital and they put me on some antibiotics that would kill anything that, came from him if it did. And I kind of went on with my life from there. I called the hospital and I checked in on him. They said that he was life flighted to Louisville. So I was like, oh man, I don't even know how to figure out if he's okay. So I just prayed and kind of went on with my life. And
you never heard anything else about him?
I never heard anything else about him until about a year, 2 years later. I had a friend named Cameron Del Rosario who wanted to start a band. He wanted to record some stuff. And we set up a day for him and Danny to come over. And, again, like I didn't put the idea of who Danny was together in my mind. And they come to the house and Danny walks through the door and I'm like, dude, I know you. And he's like, yeah. I said, you fell off a roof and you were drunk one night and fell off a roof and I wasn't sure if you were okay. I tried to check in on you. I couldn't find any way to do that. And he was like, wait, you were there? And I said, yeah, I was the guy that was holding your head and talking to you the whole time. He was like, no, that was you. And started freaking out. And I'm like, yeah. And we just he came over and gave me a big hug. He was like, dude, you saved my life. And I'm like, I don't know if I want to take that credit, but I helped, And yeah, it was a wild experience. And then seeing that connection and that synchronicity, definitely opened my eyes up to a lot deeper things. Like this world is operating that from there we started a band. It was called Rose Gold. We played a couple shows. We had one amazing show at Tidball's one night. It was packed and people were loving it. And Cameron and Danny were so fucking cool dudes. Danny was an amazing musician. He loved vintage gear. He had this old Rhodes that he brought on stage. We played and he was always trading gear for a long time. He made his income off of reverb. It was making tons of money off that. But yeah, we had a whole band experience together and just really put into perspective how the universe works. How can draw things together and back together and for moments that are needed in certain, that connection, that chemistry probably wouldn't have been there the same that when we got in there and created if I hadn't had that experience with Danny prior. Do you still keep in
contact with him now?
I haven't talked to him in a long time. No, but I think it's been since 2020. He kind of disappeared. I think he was a very non-social media, out
there kind of guy.
He was a psychedelic person. He's a psychedelic person. Yeah, I don't know where he's at now, what he's doing. But if he sees this episode, Danny, if you see this episode,
hope you're doing good.
I hope you're doing good, dude. I see Cameron's stuff on Facebook every once in a while. He's having a baby or just had a baby. That's really cool. But yeah, everybody's kind of grown up and went their separate ways. And
how long were you guys a band for?
I think a year. Yeah. We didn't really go. I think Danny ended up moving to Louisville for some other things that happened. And Cameron ended up moving to Louisville too. We just kind of all went our separate ways. I stayed in Bowling Green and kept with the studio. But yeah, very interesting experience for sure.
That's
I thought the dude was dead, and I'm like, he walks through the door, and I'm like, dude, you're a ghost. I thought you were dead. I didn't know what happened to you. Yeah.
It's weird how the irony that happens in life is just super crazy out of nowhere, meant to be type of scenarios.
Right. You know, I don't think we ever finished it. We went off in a different way. I don't even think I finished like explaining the tattoo at all.
Oh, we probably did. Yeah.
We totally dipped off. And that's easy to do for sure. But yeah, I can explain that real quick too. So yeah, explain the old lady, deep wisdom, and the kind of like personification of grandmother ayahuasca. And then the snake represents ayahuasca, the vine itself, how the snake coils around the vine. It's usually it's a general depiction of medicine work, and it's kind of like the symbol for it is a snake. And then the hummingbird. So the snake symbolizes grounding. It also symbolizes ayahuasca, the medicine itself. It symbolizes the grounded aspect of my journey and how I've remained and tried to remain grounded. And then also while balancing that with the hummingbird being free and also tapping into my ancestral, you know, my ancestral side of who I am. They say when a hummingbird visits you, it's a past loved one. So there's part of that, but it also symbolizes the freedom, you know, being able to fly, being in the sky, the freedom of nothingness. And then all of the sacred geometry is the makeup of this world. So if you've ever done psychedelics and you see a lot of sacred geometry, it's like the structure that holds this dimension together. There's a lot of meaning in it. It's the numbers. It's the display of it. Yeah. And then, of course, like the leaves and the feathers, all attached to earth and medicine work, and, nature.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I had some like cosmic shading around, which is like just being in the cosmos, space and time.
Have you complete left turn here, but have you seen the videos where they talk about if you take a laser beam and put it up against the wall, how you can, if you're on DMT or rooms or whatever, then you can see this code.
Yeah.
See into the wall and all that wild shit.
Yep. We were just talking about that. I think I was just talking about that with Leo and Roscoe, maybe. But yeah, there's a man who, I don't know if he discovered it or how he discovered it. It's on YouTube. You can find it. But he essentially like has people come to whatever location, and he has them smoke DMT, and he puts a laser like up against a wall and has them look down the wall from like a certain angle. They all see the same thing. He doesn't prompt them with what they may see. He just asks them what they see. They all see numbers and characters trickling down. Like, have you ever seen The Matrix? Like those numbers and characters, ones and zeros. It's like he believes it's like the code to this world, the makeup of this world. Yeah. we're in a simulation,
have you guys
simulation.
thought about experimenting with that?
I have thought about experimenting with it. I don't want to go searching for DMT. I think I'd much rather do it in a legal space, because I mean, I have a family now. It's real. You know, I'm sure if the right person walked into my life and they, you know, they did it in a certain way, then I would definitely take that experience and do it for sure.
What do you think about DMT and vape pens now? Like, people can just casually do DMT like that?
It's great, but it's not as strong.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. I've tried DMT from a DMT pen, and it's definitely not as powerful at all. You have to do like 3 big hits and sometimes more to blast off. Now, I will say, like, the powdered DMT that you smoke out of a bowl will take you there. Like 5-MeO DMT crystals, it will take you there. But nothing that I've done so far matches ayahuasca in terms of time and how it's like the right amount of time, kind of just what you need. It takes it at whatever pace that you set for it.
How long does it last?
6 hours. That's the ceremony. Sometimes you're still journeying a little after, but you're coherent enough to like get around and do what you need.
It's so long. That's so long.
Like, you'll go to bed and still journey a little bit, but it won't be sickness. And like, I mostly feel like earthquake rumbles. Like, I feel rumbles when I go into it. I think I hear it too. Like, it's like a earthquake happening when it's coming on. When it's leaving me, I feel that rumble. Like, it's pretty intense.
It sounds like it.
Yeah. I know some people who smoke DMT hear the like this high pitched whining. And they hear it like almost like it's rotating. And it gets higher and higher pitched before you, like, it's almost like the engine taking off before you blast off. So yeah, people experience that come up in different ways. The first time that I did ayahuasca and I felt those rumbles, I was like, oh shit, we're in California. Fucking, this definitely happens in California. We're having an earthquake. I open my eyes and everybody's chill. And I'm like, hang on a second. Do y'all not feel that earthquake? And I think I asked one of the guides, and I'm like, is there an earthquake? I was like, in and out of it. I was like, is there an earthquake happening? She was like, no, that's just you. I was like, oh, okay. I was like, all right. So, yeah. Very interesting stuff, man. Like, and I can't thank it enough. Like, I can't have, you know, with all the curiosity and all the ways that I've looked at this and the openness I've had with it, as weird as it all is and is different from anything I've ever done in my life as it is, it has been the catalyst to my growth and healing. And I can't, that's the one thing about it that I cannot deny. I can deny all the visions. I can deny all the, you know, I can come up with explanations for everything that would fit the code and the rules of this reality. And I can, you know, take the spirituality out of it if I wanted to. But the one thing that remains is I would not be here and in the position I'm in with my career, with my wife, with my child, with my friends. My lifestyle would not be the same.
Okay.
I attribute a lot to it.
Why is that?
It showed me things about myself that I never knew was even in me. It showed me behaviors that I was behaviors I had that was hurting myself and others. It showed me that I was extremely selfish and self-absorbed. You know, and not in an arrogant way, but in a judgment way. I isolated and pushed people away because of all the judgments that I had about myself, not being a good person and not being enough, which ultimately projected onto others. Like, oh, they're not being enough, and they're not a good person because they did this. I took the humanity out of people quite a bit. I operated a lot from ego and pride. I operated a lot from wanting to be front and center on certain things. I thought I knew better than others in certain spaces. I like I said, I took the humanity out of myself and others. I didn't allow flaws to exist in myself and others. Or at least I didn't want to see them. Let them be part of this human experience. And because of medicine, that completely changed all that. It's shown me to be more silent and quiet and observant in situations. It's taught me patience. It's shown me what real love looks like when my daughter was born. And something that somebody said to me at the baby shower, I had like a men's circle. Alan was there, Lex was there, Roscoe was there, all guys that my dad and some of his friends, and all guys that I valued their fatherhood, valued who they were. But one of the guys, Brian, told me that the day his first daughter was born, he looked at his wife and he said, I'm sorry, I haven't loved you. And he said, because if this is what love is, I have not given you that. I have not given you any form of this type of love. And I felt that deeply when I had my daughter. I was like, I've been a shitty husband.
Yeah.
I've been a shitty husband. Like, I've been so selfish. I've been so like holding back my love. Like, how am I able to pour all this out in this moment with my daughter being born and not give any of that to my wife? Like, my wife is the first person I should love even before my kids. Because if me and my wife aren't good, then my kid's not going to be good. You know, my kid's
my wife, but I don't know how to love my wife like I love my kids.
It's a different form of love, for sure. But I think the feeling and the what I was capable of giving my wife was so much more in that moment. It was, I have this belief, like, if we're going to be in the household together and we're going to raise the kid together, me and you got to be good. If not, we're going to fuck this kid up. Mm-hmm. Like, we got to have our relationship in check. And my wife's really good about it, where she's, we'll have arguments and she's like, I'm not doing this in front of Esme because I'm not going to get her invested in this and fuck up her nervous system and make her think something's wrong between us and argue all smiles when that's not what's happening. Let's just talk about it later when she's not around. I'm like, okay, I have to settle myself. It's hard for me because I'm a very like, no, let's fix this now.
Yeah.
Type of person. I think most men are, to be honest, but
I don't know. I'm avoidant.
You're avoidant? Yeah.
Because for me, it's like, I have so many things to stress out about that feel like a big deal, where I don't need you stressing out about it. Like, if I'm not stressed out about it, don't stress me out about it.
Oh, yeah. Burns. Yeah. Good burn. That was probably the worst. My very first tattoo I got.
What was your MOS?
92 Alpha, which is automated logistics and supply. So I mostly worked in like motor pools and did supply for units and transportation, drove trucks, worked on ordered parts for the mechanics. When I was overseas, I kind of did everything because I was lower enlisted, so they just put me into all kinds of different spaces. So I got a lot of experience in a lot of different views while I was over there. Also put into a lot of crazy situations. Kind of a positive story from overseas, which is still kind of scary, but it's funny. We were tasked with going over to this other base, which was connected to ours, and we were supposed to clean out this gym and take certain things from the gym and put it on our property books. So we were going to take it and transfer it to our unit. We went over there, and my chief found a red phosphorus grenade, or like it's not really a grenade, it's a smoke grenade. So like, you know, it doesn't explode or anything. It's just smoke. We use those to signal, mostly to signal like helicopters as either don't fly into this space with different colors. You know, there's red, white, green, like different colored smokes that would tell you different things. He had a red one, which was like danger. Yeah. So he decided to light it. They pulled the pin and set the smoke off, and he threw it into this little creek that was next to the gym. And anybody that knows anything about the smoke grenades is that water is not going to put them out.
Right. I mean, that's most, even now,
Yeah.
like once you buy even the fireworks store.
Yeah. So he threw it in the water. I guess he thought it was going to put it out, and it didn't. And so red smoke started billowing from the water. This helicopter flies over us in that moment and just starts to hover over. And I look at my chief. I'm like, you fucked up. Like, you fucked up bad. So I can't remember who it was. I think I ran in and grabbed, I had the idea, grab the smoke or grab the fire extinguisher, and we're going to like blow all the red smoke away with the white smoke. And so this helicopter's hovering and it's flying around, and we're like, oh shit, they're going to drop in on us. And we get the fire extinguisher, we blow all the red smoke away, and the helicopter turns tail and leaves. And we're like, thank fucking God that that thing left.
How much trouble would you guys gotten in?
Oh my God, like probably tons. Yeah, we would have been fucked. There probably would have been.
Are you able to?
Well, either that or like they'd be like, you know, look, we won't talk about this. But I mean, because it's not like we were wasting resources on anything, because the helicopter was already out doing patrols. So, and this base had been shut down, so they were using it just as like a flyover spot, I guess. Yeah.
Now, when you're over there and you see something like that, does that not put a level of, oh, I fucked up, like in you, like, or is it just you kind of like the training did what the training was supposed to do?
Yeah, I think you're so on guard there. There's a moment like where you're like, oh shit, there's like a realization, but then it's almost like this mindset, this other mindset takes over. Like, okay, this is what you're here for. Put it out of your mind. Like, push it out of your mind. And because you're so on guard there, you're so uptight.
You see guys where they're like, they break and they're not meant to be there.
Yeah.
Like they were never meant to fucking be there.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. Yeah, that happens. I've seen that happen. And then sometimes those guys who break actually can't survive in the real world and they end up going back.
Really?
Because that's the only space where they feel, now that they've experienced it, there's like this, I felt like that when I came back. I was so on guard, and I was living this high emotional, I was in this high, like, guarded state. That when I came back and faced
super hyper vigilant.
Yeah. When I came back and faced reality, I was like, I'd much rather be over there, because at least I know what, like, I'm doing over there. At least I have a job. At least I have a structure. At least I have, I'm not left to my own devices. There's almost like a comfort, maybe a complacency in it, because it's like at a point, it's all you know, because you were so attached to that feeling. So it's like, imagine you shake up a Coke bottle, right?
Okay.
And you just keep shaking it up. And then over time, like, it gets to a point where it just swells so much, and you pop out the cap and it just explodes. So, you're bottling everything up while you're over there because you're in such high guard that when you come back and you're left to your own devices, a lot of the times you just explode. So all the emotion comes out and you're dealing with it all at once. And it's intense. And it's like, you can't grasp a thought. Like, I couldn't hold on to an idea. I couldn't hold on to a thought. I felt paranoid. I felt like I was scared to go into a Walmart because of how much they drilled into us, like, and things that happen. Like, you can't go into overpopulated places.
How much of the PTSD came from experiences, or how much of that, I say PTSD is a broad term, but how much of that came from your actual experience over there, and how much of it came from the wiring that they did, the rewiring that they did in your brain? Do you feel like more damage came from your training, or did it come from your actual experience? Because I hear that a lot. Like everybody comes back, and it seems like the problems they have with things is stuff that was beat into their brains.
Yeah, it's a mixture of things, and I had a unique experience. I graduated basic in 2006. We were 5 years into a war, and we were almost in a sense getting good at guerrilla warfare. So a lot of that was, in my time when I went in, it was still like kill. Everybody, we're going to go over there and we're going to kill some Hajis, and that's all we're there for. And that's like, they just drill, kill into you. And I remember in basic training, they sat us down and showed us beheadings.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah. So it's like, let's traumatize you first before you even go over there so you can deal with it while you're over there. They thought that was a way to do it, You
can't unsee that shit.
Man. No, you can't. They thought that was a good idea to get us prepared, instead of teaching us mental fortitude and resiliency, which is something my father implemented actually into the National Guard training system. He had a hand in it, was resiliency training. Training the mind, preparing the mind through mental strength training over a course of time, pre-deployment, so that you come back and you can bounce back a lot easier, or you can transition a lot easier. There was never any of that type of training. So that's why you see a lot of Vietnam vets coming back, and they, the suicide rate in America is a lot higher in veterans than it is in anybody else. There's something like 20 soldiers kill themselves daily. Like, I've heard of, guys telling me like, yeah, me and one other guy are the only two people left out of our unit, or out of our squad, or out of our troop or platoon. Everybody else killed themselves. Like, dude. So I would say there's a piece of that too, because you're like, no amount of training can prepare you. You know, you can have somebody hold a plastic gun to your head, but you never know what you're going to do when a loaded gun is to your head. You know, you can practice to perfection and train. And I could do a ton of mount training, which is like running into houses and clearing the space and, you know, understanding how to maneuver as a squad through a house. You know, which person in the squad checks the front door, which person has the shotgun to blow the door, which person leads, goes in first, which person does this, does that, communicates this, communicates that. You can do that a million times. But until you run into a house with a guy pointing a gun at you, shoots at you, you have no idea what you're going to do.
Right.
And that's I think that's the part that fucks people up and fucked me up, was like, after that moment, I was like, no amount of training prepared me for that. What the fuck? Yeah. I thought I was ready, you know, I wasn't at all, you know, and that's you start to think like nothing they did for me helped me at all. I was just used. And you start to go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
So,
well, we got you finished up. Let's clean you up. Anything to say before we head out?
Man, I'm just grateful for this experience, and
I'm grateful for you, man.
Thank you
very much.
Yeah, and it's been awesome to talk through these experiences and kind of shed light on a taboo world. Also give some insight into the industry and what that looks like as far as being a producer, things that come with that. Awesome.
That's what's up. Well, I really appreciate you. And we'll have you on for many more. So
sweet, man.
Get used to seeing Justin here on the pod. If you guys found any value in our conversation today, please like, share, subscribe, comment, let us know what's going on. That stuff helps the channel. That, and I love talking with you guys. So drop a comment. Let me know what you thought. See you next time.
Oh, yeah.